All right, everybody, welcome to the Pierce County Council Public Safety Committee meeting. The date is May 12th, and the time is 1:30. Clerk, can you please call a roll?
Yes. Councilmember Yambe.
Here.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
Councilmember Hitchin. Here. Councilmember Dunson. Here. And Councilmember Herrera.
Here.
You have 5 members present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Any objections to the agenda for today? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item number 4 is approval of minutes for April 14th, 2025, and the special meeting on April 28th, 2025. Any edits or corrections to those 2 minutes that we have? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, we're going to dive right into why we're all here today. And Ms. Kelly is going to give us an introduction on this really important content today. So,
Great.
Ms. Kelly.
Thank you, Chair Herrera and committee members. For the record, Andrea Kelly, Council staff. Item number 5 today, we have a presentation from Madam Prosecutor Mary Robinette presenting on the Prosecuting Attorney's Office Staff Transition Plan. This comes from Ordinance O-2024-568S2, proviso stating, provided that funding increases to address COVID-related court backlogs and workload impacts associated with State v. Blake and other Washington State Supreme Court decisions shall not continue into future biennia. The prosecuting attorney shall provide a staffing transition plan that addresses reductions and reallocations of staff necessary as a result of the discontinuation of the funding increases no later than June 1st, 2025 for the consideration in development of the 2026-27 biennial budget.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Robinette, come on up and you know, this staff transition plan is very important as we move forward here. A lot of work has been done, and I appreciate you coming here and giving us that plan that we've been waiting for.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Herrera, Vice Chair, and other members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today. I know my deadline was June 1, and I'm happy I'm here ahead of that deadline. I did provide a PowerPoint and some materials that I'd like to use. If I could go to the first slide, please. This is an overview of our current staffing broken up by division. You can see our largest division by far, the criminal division, 65% of our staff, primarily out of the general fund. We do have 5 FTEs funded from the Behavioral Health Fund, 1.7 FTEs. We use vacancy savings to pay for those 2 supported staff positions. Those are positions that we hired through Human Services. Those are employees that need support in order to have meaningful opportunity for work in our office, and we love having them, and they're working out very well. The other, you can see also, I just want to cover briefly our civil division. We have 8 of our civil FTEs funded with the Behavioral Health Fund. 5 of those are funded with temporary vacancy savings. Those are the Raymond Hall litigation team. Unfortunately, Raymond Hall litigation kind of moved a line over, but those are the 5 extra FTEs we added for Raymond Hall litigation. Family support is 100% grant funded, and then our 12 administrative staff are funded with the general fund. I'm still happy to remind you that when I took office in 2019, I cut the administrative staff significantly, so I feel like we're running pretty lean. 5% of our staff is administrative. So the positions I want to address today are the 12 ARPA positions in the criminal division, the 7 Blake-funded positions in the criminal division, and then there were 5 other extra FTEs added for certain resentencing provisions that were coming out of the Supreme Court. Those were all FTEs that were added in early 2021. They were then built into the next biennial budget, 22 and 23, and then built into the next biennial budget, 24 and 25. And so here we are before the next biennial budget build to address those. I know, Councilmember Morrell, I think it was your amendment that called for this provision for the staff reduction plan. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. If I could get so I like to think of those in 3 different buckets: the ARPA funding, the Blake funding, and then the 5 other FTEs. Okay, I'm ready. So these are those 3 buckets. And I've put in the names and salaries so you kind of know what we're looking at and what we're dealing with. Those are the biennial costs in the right-hand column. We have taken great pains to make sure that whenever we have movement within the office, we move a position into that ARPA or Blake funded. I'm sorry, everybody's looking out behind me. I don't know what's going on. So whenever we have movement within the office, we try to take FTEs and move them out of the general fund and into those ARPA-funded positions and Blake-funded positions, because we want to spend the ARPA money instead of the general fund. And the Blake-funded positions are reimbursed by the state. So we want to keep those positions full and leave vacancies in the general fund whenever we can. So the first 7 FTEs up there are currently in the Blake Fund. Those are reimbursed by the state. We understand those are going to be reimbursed by the state going forward into the future. The next 12 are the ARPA-funded positions, and we don't anticipate the ARPA funding to go on. And then the last 5 are the extra positions that were added, primarily to do with resentencings pursuant to Houston Sconyers, Domingo Cornelio, Ali, Monchke, some of the cases coming out of the Washington State Supreme Court. That work is continuing, and in addition to the, I'm sorry, I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. In addition to the resentencing work, we have noticed an uptick in other sort of extra work that has come from either case law or legislation, primarily legislation. In 2023, the legislature provided that free attorney for a lot of categories of post-conviction cases: habeas corpus, personal restraint petitions, resentencing in general, not guilty by reason of insanity. These people now, as of 2023, have free attorneys, which has increased quite a bit our post-conviction litigation. If I could go to the next slide. So scenario 1, I told you the loss of the ARPA funding, which we have been anticipating, and that represents an elimination of 12 FTEs. In anticipation of that, we have started holding vacant positions as of January 1 of this year. So we've been holding several positions vacant, or we've been reclassifying those to lower paying, lower salaried positions. We feel like we can absorb this cut without reductions in force. We may be able to do it without any reduction in the amount of criminal case filings that we're filing. That kind of remains to be seen. We're working at chipping away at some of those backlogs, and we hope that in the next, it's May, in the next 7 or 8 months, by the end of this year, we make significant progress, continue to make significant progress in that direction. So the FTEs we would need to cut, I know it lists 8 DPAs, 2 victim witness advocates, and 1 legal assistant. We are, and then below that lists out what we anticipate. We are currently holding 2 VWAS positions vacant. That should be listed down there. We're holding several positions vacant. 2 of them are VWAS. Any questions about this scenario 1?
Is there any questions from the committee at all on this scenario?
Okay.
I see one, yes. Committee Member Denson.
Well, it's a question. What does VWAS stand for again?
Victim Witness Assistance Services.
Thank you.
Those are people who coordinate all of our witness contact, do outreach, and really necessary for our work. We're hurting with those 2 that we're holding empty. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good that question. Any other questions? I don't see any.
Okay, if I could get the next slide, is the next scenario, which is cutting ARPA and the other 5 positions that were added in the general fund, the sort of Monchke, Ollie, general resentencing positions. That would create the need to eliminate 17 FTEs. That would be 10 deputy prosecutors, 7 legal assistants. We cannot absorb these cuts without doing layoffs and a significant cutting of the criminal workload that we're filing. I've listed out there, we do think by holding some of our more higher positions vacant, and we do anticipate some vacancies, I've kind of outlined them there, due to retirements and planned resignations that we're aware of right now. We could accommodate this dollar amount of cut by cutting 11 deputy prosecutors, the 2 victim advocates that we're currently holding empty, and 2 legal assistants. It would mean a reduction in 9% of our criminal staffing, and toward the end of this, I will tell you how we've gone through kind of analyzing a weighted analysis of the cases that we file and how we would cut 10% of our workload on criminal filings. And if there are no questions on this one, I'll go to the next.
Any questions on scenario 2? I don't see any.
Okay. So if we if we eliminate all 3 of those buckets that I talked about, the ARPA positions, the Blake positions, and the other general fund positions, it would be a reduction of 24 FTEs. And you can see how we would do that. We cannot absorb that without laying off significant amount of staff and cutting the criminal workload. We are holding several of those vacant now, as I said. We anticipate retirements, and it would still require laying people off. So if I can go to the next slide.
So I had a quick
Oh,
question
go ahead. I'm sorry.
on that one. I think you said earlier that the Blake funding is going to be continued funding?
It is. It's reimbursed. It's not funded.
Reimbursed.
But
Okay,
it is out of the general fund, and it is reimbursed. And we're definitely asking that you continue funding that. We are. It's my understanding that that's included in the state budget. I'm not sure the governor's signed that yet, but we anticipate that it will be funded.
And is that whole funding or just partial?
It's whole funding, and it's whole cost recovery. It's not just salary and benefits. It's we built in everything, whole cost recovery. We've discussed this with the executive and finance already.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So if I could go to the next slide. This is kind of the exercise we've gone through for how we would cut. So with the ARPA only, we would not need to do reduction in force as our prediction right now, based on retirements that we are anticipating and vacancies that we're already holding open. If ARPA and the 5 extra positions are cut, we anticipate it's a 9% staffing cut, and we would anticipate doing some similar cut in our workload. So at the bottom of the page, on the right-hand box, we've tried to score criminal cases in a weighted way, and that means significance for public safety as well as sort of complexity and how time-consuming they are. So the ones are district court cases, misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, non-DV and non-DUI. Those are our 2024 filings. There were 1,960. That is about 10% of our workload, and that is about what we would anticipate needing to cut under this scenario. So it would mean in district court we would be filing DV cases and DUI cases and nothing else, just due to insufficient funds. Under the next scenario, if we were to lose all 3 buckets of that money, and Chair Herrera, as you pointed out, I hope there's no reason to lose the Blake funding. We would be needing to make a cut of, it would be a 14% staff cut, and we would anticipate making about a 14% cut in our criminal casework. That would mean all of the Category 1 cases that I've just described, district court cases, plus probably some of the cases we classified at a level 2, which are going to be felony property crimes. And if we get to this kind of scenario, I'm likely going to want to sit down with you, Chair Herrera, and then the Council Chair Hitchin, and talk about what makes sense. I know in the end the call is on me to make, but I would want input from the 2 of you about what we're able to fund and what you view as most important for the criminal work of our office.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions from the committee at all? Committee Member Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Prosecutor. I think I know the answer to this, but just for the public's sake, since some of this funding was ARPA dollars and some of this was Blake and some of it was resentencing, which all were like supposed to deal with I'm going to call it a bubble of cases that was created. Can you help understand why we still might see a need to have those programs funded, even if it's through a different source? Mm-hmm. Why is there still a bubble?
Well, I would say I consider that 3 separate buckets, and the only bucket there that was temporary is ARPA, the case backlog. And when this funding came through for us in early 2021 and 2022, we had 2,500 felony cases pending trial. And we've worked through that a lot, along with our partners, the defense attorneys and the courts. And that number is now hovering around 1,800, which is much more normal, much more pre-COVID. So we've kind of worked through that bubble. The others are not bubbles. I think the others are the new normal. Blake involved vacating 50,000 or so drug convictions here in Pierce County. We triaged those and handled the people who were in custody and due to be released, and then the people who were in custody and still had sentences. And now we're working backwards through those. And I'm happy to say Pierce County is ahead of almost any place in the state in terms of just working through that work. Of the 50,000 or so that we know of since 1970, in the 1970s, about 30,000 of those are digital, going back to early 90s or 1990, when we have electronic records and can locate those files. Prior to that, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're halfway through the 30,000 of digital records. We've done more than 15,000 vacates and resentencings on many of those. So that wasn't a bubble. And then the other the other sort of resentencings based on youthful offender status and that type of thing has not really been a bubble either. I mean, I do think it is our new normal, not to mention the work I've described that was added, petitions for release on not guilty by reason of insanity, competency work, attorney-assisted personal restraint petitions, habeas corpus petitions. Prosecutors are mandated to look at requests for resentencing under Senate Bill 6164, which passed a few years ago. Our office has a committee to look at those. We've reviewed 348, and I mean these are all it's real work. It takes hours, and it's work that needs attention. It's not stuff that's optional for us. Mm-hmm. When it comes to options, our options are file fewer criminal charges, and that's about it. The rest of it's not optional. So these weren't bubbles. It's our new normal. That's where we're at.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those questions. Committee Member Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you bringing this forward. My concern when I put it in the supplemental budget was just to prepare a pathway forward. We knew that we couldn't, there wasn't a sustainable plan in place. So it looks like you've definitely made progress on the backlog, which is great. And like you say, it's the level we're at is probably our new normal. In looking at now that the legislature has gone home and they can do no harm to us from here on out, I hope that at least we have the direction in the budget for reimbursement on the Blake, which hopefully we can keep that up. And it's just unfortunate that we still get unfunded mandates handed down with the expectation that we have to absorb those costs. So moving forward, just in your understanding, and maybe you don't have an answer, when the states set up the Constitution for what the priorities of a county is to be, you know, whether public safety, the courts, you know, they set up, this is your expectation, Pierce County or King County or whoever, you will be responsible for these activities. And I would assume that when they did set that up, that the court system was part of those priorities. So my understanding is what I would like to see at some point is when that Constitution was set up, what were the priorities that were mandated to be able to set up a county, and look at funding those priorities versus some of the other ones that we've now taken upon ourselves. So I would be looking in the next budget cycle to make sure I have a firm grasp on that. I have no intentions of, going through the budget and cutting it down to the bones for our court system. I think the public has said it more lately in very vocal forms that we need to make sure that you have the resources you need to, process these cases and move them forward so they don't linger. As much as I would like to see that caseload go down to 1,000, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. So, there again, have you gotten any direction from the executive pertaining to what expectation is on any submitted budget for the next cycle?
Yes. My understanding is that the executive would plan to keep the 7 Blake positions since they are reimbursed. I believe the executive plans to fund our 5 Raymond Hall FTEs on the civil side. Am I right, Lana? And the 5 from the general fund as well? Possibly. Yeah, we're not sure. We're going to have to submit a decision package on those 5. I'm going to call them extra. They were extra at the time, added for all the resentencing cases. It's we think the executive plans to submit that in his budget. We're not certain on some of them. We'll submit decision packages, and if we strike them, we can do that. In terms of funding for the courts. If I could go to the next slide, I want to, well, this is a slide that sort of demonstrates the content of our caseloads has changed significantly. These are adult felony cases, and we used to have about a third of them were what I would call our serious violence, murder, manslaughter, robbery, assault, arson, domestic violence, special assaults. We've now gone to over half of our caseload is now that type of case. And the next slide, please. This is just sort of an explanation of the discovery that we're handling. It's a completely different world. Our discovery now is huge volumes of digital evidence, cell phone footage, body-worn cameras, ring cell, ring doorbell footage. You know, it's just a whole different world. And next slide, please.
So just, I'm gonna pause on that again about what discovery is and how it does change the game even for the misdemeanors in some aspects where it takes a lot more time to gather that information to file compared to 15 years ago. That's correct, right?
That's correct.
And so that slows things down. We may have less misdemeanor cases these days, but it takes, I don't know, twice as long to get one filed.
Some of them, yes.
Some of them.
Yes. The DUIs take a long time. We're waiting a long time for talks.
Because some people will take a look at the misdemeanors, what we used to have 20, 15 years ago, or double, or much more than we do now.
Correct.
But that's what's changed, is that discovery part, right?
Well, we're filing far fewer misdemeanor cases than we did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Yeah. A lot of that was traffic cases, like driving on suspended license and that kind of thing. I guess I can call it low-hanging fruit, for lack of a better term. So, yeah, the misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors that we're filing now are a little more concentrated on more complex and more voluminous evidence. I think that's fair.
And looks like Committee Member Hitchen's got a question too. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. On this case, I'm just curious if other prosecutors in Washington State with many jurisdictions are using body-worn cameras, have they come up with systems, other ways to manage this so that it's less time burdensome for your staff to do that?
No. No. If I could go back one slide. Could I go back one slide to the discovery? We're running out of storage space.
I noticed that as well, yeah.
Right. We get hard drives for our attorneys to take the discovery to work on a case so that they're not working in the system, because it would slow it down and stop it. Same for our legal assistants. They download a case, they work on it, then they can put it back. I mean, the amount of discovery, it's the cumulative one there on the right. We're running out of places to store it as a county.
But I know we're not the only jurisdiction using this, so I'm just curious if we've done any reach out to any jurisdictions that maybe have had body cameras a little bit longer than us, and so like, hey, how are you dealing with storage, and then just managing the requirements around who's viewing the footage to decide, is this appropriate for a case, how long we store it for, because we will essentially need our own server farm for Pierce County to hold this if we have to hold it indefinitely. So while the cameras are a blessing, in some, depending on who you talk to, they're a blessing. This is not, I don't remember us talking about where's the stuff going to be stored and the costs when we were thinking about implementing body cameras. So I think that could be a conversation to be had.
It has to be viewed and redacted, and it's very labor intensive for our folks. And redacting is, viewed one thing, redacted another, prepared for use in court another. It's very laborious, and I am unaware of any jurisdiction who's saying, "Hey, we nailed this. We've got it." But I will reach out.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
If somebody has figured this out, please call us.
I will do that reach out. The next slide is, this is kind of a recap of what I've been telling you. The 11 ARPA staff we anticipate that money's going to be gone. That's why we've started holding vacancies in January of this year. We are going to ask for general funding for the 5 criminal FTEs that were added to our budget in early 2021 for the resentencing positions, and we will also be asking for the 7 Blake positions, which we think will be net zero to the county. The next slide, please. Councilmember Morrell, this is related a little bit to what you were saying, about wanting to keep us funded. This is a kind of dense slide, but it's really important. The growth rate for the prosecuting attorney's office, which is in the first column, the Superior Court, which is in the second column, the District Court, which is in the third column, Department of Assigned Counsel, then law enforcement, and then the Pierce County population. So this is just FTEs. These are just like FTEs out of the budget. Between 2000 and 2018, our office had 0% growth. Compared to our justice partners, you can see what their growth was. Between 2000 and 2023, we had 15% growth, and that is the positions we've been talking about today, ARPA, Blake, and the other resentencing positions. You can see the growth of us versus our partners. I've put in there a line of what 2027 would look like without the ARPA positions. We would be at 15% growth compared to 27% for law enforcement, 29% for Superior Court, 33% for Pierce County population, 34% for DAC, and 35% for District Court. So we're not keeping up with our criminal justice partners, even with the extra positions.
So I have a question. So you talked about these are known changes. We know the ARPA funding's going away, but there's some unknowns out there. Is there any other federal funding that is threatened or is going possibly could be cut from the federal government that I know you maybe don't know the answer, but if something's coming down or you're hearing things or suspension, please let us know.
I think we are losing federal funding for TNET, which is a Tacoma Narcotics Enforcement Team.
Wow.
We have one position there. That's not going to affect any of this, but that's the only thing I've heard of. The other thing that is of concern to me is our Family Support Division, which is 29 FTEs. They are 100% funded by the state, but a lot of that is federal pass-through money. I think about 2/3 of it is federal money.
And that's for like child support?
It is. They do
Enforcement?
They do child support enforcement, and they also do establishing parentage for kids who need that.
Okay, wow. So it's beyond just this report in some aspects. Good.
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any rumors or anything, but I am aware of that. That is a lot of federal funding for our family support. Other than that, aside from the state money that comes into our office through the county,
Okay.
I haven't heard of anything.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions from the committee? Any closing statements?
No. I mean, we're working hard. We are. We've been running a really, really lean operation and trying to do the very best we can with the very least we can. And I hope that this council, I know the executive and finance appreciate the way that we've tried to manage our money and move people into the behavioral health fund when we can, move people into ARPA and reimbursed positions when we can, and put the least amount of stress on the general fund of this county. So thank you for your support, and
Yep.
thank you for having me today.
Well, appreciate you bringing this report early and how comprehensive it is as we move forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, Ms. Kelly, who do we have next here?
Certainly.
There we go.
If I may, Chair Herrera, just wanted to confirm that in the proposed budget, Senate budget, there is an addition, a repeated $51 million for Blake. That is what has been delivered to the governor, and that is the same amount that was in the prior budget as well.
Okay, and we're waiting for that signature.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so next item on your agenda is the Pathways to Progress program update. So for a bit of background, the council appropriated $250,000 from ARPA dollars in Ordinance 2022-76S2 for a community transition services pilot program with the intent of a program that would improve case outcomes for justice-involved individuals. The appropriation was then supplemented by an additional $100,000 in Ordinance 2023-12S. Council approved the pilot program design in Resolution 2023-83, and at that time it was entitled Pretrial Pathways and went live with a soft launch in January of 2024. The council authorized the pilot for up to 2 years with funding in the 2024-25 budget with the $350,000 allocation from ARPA. The program has been renamed as Pathways to Progress, and in November of 2024, the program was nominated and awarded the Innovating Justice Award from the Washington State Administrative Office of the Courts. As you can see, we have a number of people today here to provide testimony for the program and support of the program, but presenting today we have Dominique Hardiman, the District Court Probation Division Manager, and Marissa Davis, the District Court Fiscal Manager, to present an update on the program and its evolution since going live. Also in attendance, we have District Court Presiding Judge Claire Sussman and District Court Administrator Misty Robson.
All right, thank you. All right, Dominique. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Council. It's always a pleasure to present to the Council and all the wonderful things that we're doing out in the community when it comes to criminal justice. So I wanted to give you an update on the Pathways program. As Andrea stated, back in 2022, this was in response, the funding was made available in response to COVID and to see if we could come up with some ways to improve the outcomes for individuals that are transitioning back into the community. Love the opportunity. With our court, we always feel like we can always do things better. So we're always looking to improve. We're always looking to figure out how can we do things better. We always know that we can do things better. And this was an opportunity to do things better. So we originally received $250,000 with the expansion to an additional $100,000. And again, the objective was to improve case outcomes. That would be the first slide. Yeah, that's the history. Can we go to the next slide? So this was presented to Pierce County District Court. We took the lead on this along with the Department of Assigned Counsel, Superior Court, pretrial, and the prosecuting attorney's office, and sat down and asked everybody, what would you like to see? What kind of services would you like to see? And that began the first development of the Pretrial Pathways program. As Andrea said, it originally was named. The goal of the program was to provide behavioral health supports, job training, housing assistance, and there's a lot of other kind of sub-categories underneath those three that were provided for individuals that went through this program. Next slide. So the program was designed, best case scenario is you want to contact individuals while they're in custody. That's best case scenario. If you can start programming, if you can start that initial contact with individuals while they're in custody, get them prepared for release, have a game plan for them, best case scenario. I think anybody that's involved with criminal justice, you want to get your client, you want to get that ball rolling while they're in custody. You don't want to do that while they're out of custody because it's that much more difficult. So if you can get that opportunity to meet with them while they're in custody, figure out what's the game plan, you're going to have better outcomes.
With that, how is someone referred? Like, who does that?
So the primary referring agencies were probation, pretrial services, the clerk's office, and DAC. We wanted DAC to be involved with this because we know that not everybody's case is going to land somebody in custody, or that case may get dismissed. And so over the years, I know I've noticed that individuals that need services, quite often their cases get dismissed, and there's really nobody to advocate for them once that case gets dismissed. So I may have been in custody long enough to lose my housing, lose my employment, and my case gets dismissed. So now I need to rebuild. So who do I turn to if I haven't had to do that before? So this program was really meant to fill the gaps of those folks that fall through those gaps in the system. And so having DAC be involved in making these referrals, whether that case went on to be adjudicated or whether that case was dismissed, having that referral from DAC was vital to getting people connected to services. And then post-release, providing those services while someone has released. And then the aftercare, which is, I can't even stress how important it is to have the aftercare. So getting somebody employed and keeping them employed takes work. Getting somebody housing and keeping them housed takes work. It isn't just enough to place somebody in a house. That house has to be appropriate. They have to be able to manage that house. There may need to be some case management that goes on with that, along with the employment. And I'll talk a little bit about the employment component. There are literally people that work for the county right now without the case management being provided through the program would not be employed right now without that case management. And I'll get into that in just a minute. So that aftercare is vital. So we focused on getting folks into drug and alcohol programming, mental health programming, housing, employment, and homelessness. Keep in mind, this is a voluntary program. You don't have to do this program. There's no consequence if you don't opt into this program. So if somebody decides that they just don't want to do it, that's okay. We would hope that they would. And you'll see some of the numbers, some of the referral numbers that kind of reflect when you have a voluntary program. Next slide. Next slide really is what makes this program unique, and just a great team of folks that we really tried to touch on all of the areas where an individual transitioning back into the community, where are they going to need those supports? And a lot of things that we might take for granted, a lot of folks have those deficits and don't have either access or don't understand how to access some of these resources. So starting with Vallejo, partner we've had for a number of years. In fact, this program, Sherry and I years ago attempted a smaller version of this program with the employment component, and we found some success with that, but it wasn't a whole lot of money to support that program, but that was just kind of the makings of where we are now, but having that foundation. So Vallejo provides that vocational training and the supports, and again, those supports, that case management. So as individuals are learning soft skills, hard skills, they're going back to the classroom. So somebody might have started the employment component. Come to find out, well, got some substance use issues that I need to work on. So I think we even had one individual who she had to do a PBT test every morning before she was allowed to go out on the job because there was a risk that she might be under the influence. And that happens. But she was not kicked out of the program. We just offered her the behavioral health supports. You take her that, and you can always come back to the employment component. That's what makes this program unique. You're not booted out of the program. But Vallejo provided all of that case management, just fantastic in supporting the individuals. Goodwill offered another opportunity through their Goodwill Life Launch Go, another opportunity for younger participants to obtain employment, guaranteed employment if they successfully completed the program. We had mental health supports through Comprehensive Life Resources, FHARPs. FHARPs, and another word for FHARPs are folks who are true blood class members. Very difficult population to place, very difficult population to find housing for, but there is housing that's available for this population. I'll talk a little bit about some of the successes that came about with our partnership with the FHARPs program. Pierce County Alliance providing the behavioral health supports. Sound Outreach providing that financial literacy. If I'm working my first job, I need to be responsible with my money. So having that resource available is invaluable. Having Evergreen Empowerment with Corwin here today. Those individuals that are applying for jobs, getting some cases off your criminal history are important. We had individuals that, unfortunately, because of their criminal history, are still being not allowed to apply for certain jobs. So having Corwin and his team work with individuals to get some of these cases expunged, another just valuable tool for the program. Next slide.
We'll pause there for a second. We've got a question. So, Committee Member Denson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Chair, and thanks for being here. Your program is wonderful. I think we're all really excited about it. I just had a quick question. You mentioned your partners. You mentioned Comprehensive Life doing mental health and the Alliance Recovery Navigator program doing behavioral health. Do those include substance abuse programs too?
Yes.
Is that they're captured under those?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
That's so important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that question.
Okay. So the next slide, the great thing about this program is it's tailored individually. It's the supportive services slide. It's tailored specifically for the individual needs of the individual. So we had individuals that I need transportation assistance. That's all I need. So the program can provide that. All I needed were groceries. I just got out. I need to fill my fridge. So basic living needs were supported, housing and groceries, transportation needs, car repairs. We had an individual that was living in his vehicle, so having his car repaired, maintained was real important. So car repairs, getting your driver's license, access to public transit. Employment preparedness. So if they're going to be doing our Work Crew Plus, they need work clothes, work boots, work shoes. We were able to provide that for those individuals. Communication, phones. Very difficult to obtain housing if there's no way anyone can get in touch with you, so being able to provide phones to individuals. Rental assistance was another big part of the program where we were able to successfully assist folks in paying. Maybe I was in custody for a couple of months. I need to catch up on my rent. So that was available. Paying for PPEs for those individuals that went on to those jobs that are in the labor or trade industries. And then storage. Individuals that might have been living in their vehicles, needing a place to store their goods while they remained employed, we found was one of the needs that came up. Next slide. So now we get into the actual referral numbers, and I'll start with that first number, that 362. That's a big number. That's a pretty big number. That's just an indication of what folks are needing. So that 362, this is coming from DAC, this is coming from pretrial services, this is coming from the probation officers. That's the need. So we get the name of the individual, they identify the services that person needs. 362, and that's the ones that we know of. We still know that there are others that need the services. So 362 is a big number, but a great indication of what is needed. Despite having our probation department doing a great job, we have a lot of success in our probation department, but not everybody's on probation and not everybody should be on probation. So who's there to help those folks that are not on probation? So again, this program was designed for that. But despite that number, there were 233 clients that we were actually able to contact. I think when I presented on this months ago, I mentioned that we still had the issue of individuals releasing with bad contact information, and that's still a problem that we have to work on. We still have to sort that out. So we might get that referral from DAC, and that individual has released to the community, and the contact information that we have is no longer valid. Either that address is no longer valid or that phone number is no longer valid. So we lose contact. So just right off the top, we lose that 129. I didn't want to sugarcoat this, but that's the reality, and we've got to figure out why that continues to occur. We also have that population that shows up, they've been scheduled for intake, and then life happens. For one reason or another, they've shown up for our intake. We've explained the services to them. Again, this is a voluntary program, but somewhere along the way, we lose contact with that person. That's very frustrating. I guess the best example I can think of is if you've ever coached, and I coached track and field years ago, And not to get too far off tangent here, but I had a great track team, just a wonderful track team. My goodness, it was fantastic. Girls track team was just fantastic. But anyways, I had some superstars on that team, and I had a young lady. Everybody told me, "Oh, this young lady, she's just great." And so convinced her to come out. Got her out for about 3 weeks. She came out. She smoked everybody, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this girl's going to be a superstar." And I talked to her and I worked with her. Unfortunately, she just had so much going on in her personal life. There just wasn't enough. Wasn't a failure on her part. It felt more like my engagement with her. Maybe there's some things I could have said to her or done with her or worked with her that might have led to some different outcomes for her. But I use that as an example. As much as we want, as much as we try, there's going to be some folks that are not going to take advantage or not going to see what we see. So unfortunately, we know that's going to occur, but we're determined that we can improve that. We can change our engagement. We can change the way we approach the individuals that we work with. I went to a meeting last week at CLR, Comprehensive Life Resources, and they talked about engagement, and they talked about how do we get individuals to take advantage of mental health services. Now, these are the experts in the county. They've been, I think, the longest-running mental health agency either in the county or in the state, one of those. And they mentioned when they try to get individuals engaged into treatment services, their PAC team will go out and they will talk to individuals. And they realized when they would go out and they would say, "Hey, we're here from CLR and we want to offer you some counseling services." A lot of times they would get back, "Well, I don't need any counseling. I don't need any of that." And so they realized we need to change how we engage these individuals. So instead of that, they're just there to talk. We're here to talk to you. We're here to hear what's going on. We're not going to offer you anything. We just want to hear what's going on with you. We're here to talk to you. We're here to hear what's going on with your life. They find that approach and just listening and hearing what people have to say, and then it's more than one appointment. It's coming back. It's building that trust over time. They realized we're going to get more engagement with that approach than just coming out and say, "Hey, here's what we got for you." And so we realized that we can do some things differently as well when it comes to our approach and our engagement, because we do want to improve those numbers of getting folks actively involved in this program. Taking a look at our race and ethnicity, I know we were hoping to match the numbers that are in custody. We did fall short of that. I believe the last time I reported we were at a 64% BIPOC population that has fallen to about 50%. We have done some outreach to some agencies that specialize in focusing on BIPOC populations. That's a change program. Working with them, and we do hope if we can continue to have the program funding that we can improve that number. We believe we can improve that number. All right, next slide. So these were the needs that were identified by the clients. As you can see, the top needs are employment and housing. Employment and housing, followed by SUD and mental health. Looking at those SUD and mental health numbers, that's probably a higher number. Not everybody is going to admit up front that they need those services. And we found that some folks, again, who wanted employment really needed some other services before they could gauge in employment. But I thought having those percentages of the individuals that were referred, 70% were looking for employment and 70% were looking for housing. So we think this is the perfect program for those individuals looking for those services. Next slide. So,
Quick question there.
Yes.
Committee Member Hitchen.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hardiman, on the reporting client needs, I'm making an assumption, but I want to double check. Sometimes people need housing and employment, so they fall in both these categories. I'm assuming there's a duplication in some of these, or somebody
Yes.
could need
Yes.
all four of these. Okay, I just want to make sure because the
yes,
math was
absolutely. A lot of crossover with some of the data.
Okay.
So like I mentioned, some of the clients accessing
All of it.
the full meal deal, and some I just need this support.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes. Committee Member Denson. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I know the answer to this, but just in case, in thinking about the individuals who you offer some sort of assistance to and they say, "No, I'm good," I know that is probably like second nature to a lot of us. When somebody offers help, we're like, no, we're good. I think you've told us this in previous presentations. Do you reach out again or make sure they know that the door is always open? I mean, this happened to me the other day. Somebody offered me some help. I was like, no, I'm good. And I started thinking, like, you know what, I probably should have taken that help. And I'm probably going to tell them that. So, given another opportunity when they've got some time to think, tell us about that.
Yes. So this isn't a one-time shot where we get the information. We're going to try to contact your collaterals. We're going to, if the number is valid, we're going to contact that number multiple times. So at least 3 occasions, 3 times we're going to make that attempt. If we've actually seen you and contacted you, we're going to keep bothering you until you just tell us to leave you alone. Because we really want you to see that these services are available for you. So it's multiple attempts, which takes some work, which takes some time. And so, yes. So, yeah, there's multiple attempts to make contacts with individuals. Yes.
That's great. Thank you.
So some of the challenges, again, I mentioned 129 clients that the contact information is just not good. So one of the things we're looking at is improving our data accuracy and to maintain updated contact information. Another vital component is that immediate response to the referral. So if we get the referral, if we can have a navigator, or if we can have one of the court staff members make that contact with that individual, and we're seeing better numbers as our referral numbers are shooting up and folks are actually showing up, because we've been able to manage that referral process. We've had Calvin and Taylor from Vallejo who've been stationed at the resource center, and so getting them from Ben to do that court process, that eligibility determination, getting them over to Calvin and Taylor has gone a long way in speeding up that process, because that's important, again, to have that immediate contact from the date of the referral, so the connection is made between, okay, my attorney made the referral, somebody contacted me within 4 hours. So we've gotten to that point where we're getting that kind of contact with individuals. So that's fantastic. Identifying service gaps. One of the things that we identified through this program as we work with Comprehensive Life Resources was we learned, because we were getting referrals from the forensic navigators who work with the True Blood clients, we learned that our county was the only county that did not have a team that went in and did FHARPs and FPATH assessments. So with FHARPs and FPATHs, there are available beds, housing that are available, designated specifically for those individuals. But those beds go unoccupied because they can't find the individuals who we know are in custody, but we can't figure out who's eligible for those beds because of HIPAA laws. But we were able to work with Nicole, her team, her pretrial team, Comprehensive Life Resources, Greater Lakes. So now in the jail has been willing to allow CLR to come into custody now to do those assessments. So we should see more positive outcomes for those individuals. When you hear that there were 40 available beds for True Blood clients and nobody is filling those, that's very frustrating. When we know we have clients that could absolutely benefit from getting housed in those beds. So that's one of the successes. Potential focus areas, improving contact systems. We still have limitations with the contact between multiple agencies. That's something that we're still going to have to work on. Developing some more culturally responsive services for members and BIPOC populations, and then determining the reasons for the no-shows and the barriers that result in some of the no-shows for the folks that we do have contact with. Okay, so some of the key successes, I started to mention some of these. Our Work Crew Plus program, that is our subsidized employment program. We had 39 individuals that came through that program. Several of those individuals were able to interview for the county, and I'm proud to say that at least 1 or 2 of those individuals is now a co-worker. So very cool to have somebody who was just as involved now become a county employee. And Councilmember Yambe, I believe you met one of the, yes, she is a Work Crew Plus participant right now. The other thing about what we've developed through this program is a relationship with Kroger. Kroger has jobs available. We are a partner in the New Beginnings program. New Beginnings is a training opportunity, so individuals that come through our Work Crew Plus program, through our training program, because it is a true jobs training program, they can apply for positions through a portal that I have access to, and I can submit their name. They are guaranteed to have their applications pulled. They will be taken on a tour of the job. They will walk through the facility. They will be interviewed. That's a guarantee through this program. That's the relationship that we have built as a part of this program. I know my time is, I'm running long, but just to finish up, that 15 individuals that moved into stable housing and 10 individuals that participated in the Life Launch Go program, and 9 clients that actively participate in behavioral health services. Marissa had some comments regarding the program sustainability, I'm sorry. And I'll let Marissa take over.
Welcome.
Thank you, Council, for having me. My first time speaking in front of you all, so I appreciate the opportunity. Don's done an amazing job laying out the framework. The program is absolutely amazing. This originally came as a request from Council, and if you give Dom an opportunity to run with innovation, you're going to get solutions that will always exceed expectations, and this is no exception to that. But I would like to shift the focus to the financial landscape, and I'll kind of address the elephant in the room. I know the financial landscape for the county, for the state, at a federal level is uncertain and concerning. But I'm going to walk you through what future funding requirements would be necessary to sustain the program and kind of how we came up with that, and then I'll give you an outlook of what the rest of 25 looks like. So in 26 and 27, we thought about this moving beyond the pilot phase. How do we create a framework that is sustainable at a bare bones without any outside funding? What would it take to run the program with all of the key service pathways still intact? Don mentioned him and Sherry from Vallejo have worked on a similar program in the past, and because of funding dipped down. So if we modified how those services are provided, what would it cost without Vallejo works really hard to find outside grants, and so that supplemented the program quite a bit. But the bare bones requirement would be $250,000 annually, so you're looking at $500,000 for the biennium. The great way about this modified program is that about 55% of that goes directly back into the pockets of the participants, whether that's through subsidized employment through the Work Crew Plus program or all of those support services. The remainder of it is the administrative costs. Although the active participants only reflect about 1/3 of the total referrals, each one of those referrals takes resources and staff time, multiple attempts and follow-up that still require those resources. A stable investment is going to allow for a reduction in these lapses of the program. They're costly and they're inefficient every time we have to restart up, re-go through the planning phase. And it damages the relationship with the community partners. I mean, Kroger just began as a community partner within the last couple of months, and so that takes time to build the trust that they're going to guarantee their staff and resources to be able to interview the folks that come through the program, and it would be a shame to lose those community partners. Although we remain committed to supporting Vallejo and other community partners in securing external funding, it's uncertain, one, what the risk level is of the county to take external grants and what the federal funding looks like. We did support them in applying for a Department of Labor grant to expand the program, which would include more interaction with clients that are in the jail. We remain cautiously optimistic, but we won't know until the fall whether or not that funding has been secured. There's been research published by the Washington State Institute for Public Policy that shows about a 50% likelihood of benefits outweighing the cost of programs that have job training that includes some type of subsidized employment. That skyrockets to 87% likelihood that the benefits are going to outweigh the cost if we could start that program in jail, which really just underscores if we're able to reach the participants while they're still in custody, it's going to be better for them, it's going to be less costly, and those benefits are going to be more long-lasting. Dom emphasized that employment continues to be the most significant need, and barrier along with housing for individuals that are reentering the community from being justice involved, which is why when we looked at paring down this program just to the bare bones, that employment and housing pathways were not one of the reductions that were taken. Any questions on 26 and 27 before I move through the outlook for the rest of 25?
Any questions? Yep. Committee Member Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the overview. I think something that would be really helpful would be to maybe do the math on this, really think about the participants that have, like you have participants that have been through the program, and figure out if they had reoffended, if they'd gone back to what landed them in our jail, what would have been the cost to the county? We're talking about prosecutors, we're talking about district attorneys, we're talking about courts, we're talking about jail and law enforcement, and giving us that number, because we have a real number in front of us of potential costs that would help us justify a shift or a change in what we're spending our money on, because I think we've allocated these funds through maybe ARPA dollars. We don't have those anymore, so we're going to have to pull it from somewhere. If I can see a cost benefit because we're reducing costs over here as we're seeing cases continue to rise, one of the things to make that change is to change the numbers of people who reoffend.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think this program is really getting at, is how do we stop the cycle? And I'd rather invest in this than some of the, just keep doing some of the things we've been doing if we aren't seeing changes in behavior. So it'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could already see that as a referral source from pretrial services and DAC, allowing them to have a program to refer their clients to. So running the math on that is absolutely doable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, and I'll expand on that and add the human side of that, because before we had this pilot program, there was nothing. So the chances of someone not getting those top needs, substance abuse help, behavioral health services, housing services, and employment, they all had to do that on their own if they had the energy to do that. I think this committee went through last year, the Public Safety Committee with DOC kind of went through that scenario of what it looks like getting out of prison and just getting thrown out there and trying to comply with everything, and that really opened eyes. Well, here it is at our level, our Pierce County level, and we have this pilot program for folks to do right, and that's the human side of it. So without it, they're on their own. The chances of them reoffending is probably a little bit higher. They're going to be probably on the street, possibly, or homeless. So, I mean, it compounds a little bit. So I just wanted to frame that one up. So thank you.
And it really is a hand up. I'm a mom of 3, and challenges every day doing just regular life skills. You add 1 barrier, 2 barriers, 3 barriers, that becomes nearly impossible. And this program alleviates a lot of that for our participants. Okay. Next slide, please.
Oh, one more. And I didn't mention it. We have a guest here, Councilmember Krueger. Councilmember Krueger has a question.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering, do you follow through, like when someone is entering the program and where they are 10 years later?
Dawn, do you want to hop in on that? The program is new. This is a pilot program that just started, so we don't have data that far out.
But in the past with programs, is there a follow-up, or is there a plan to do a follow-through with this in tracking for years?
Yeah, we would hope to, that we hadn't sat down to follow track individuals that long. We do tell them that the service is available if they ever need to come back for any additional services. They can always come back to the Resource Center or contact Vallejo. But we had not mapped out following folks for that length of time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, 2025, which is already almost halfway over. At our last presentation, we had mentioned that there were some contracting barriers that were going to hinder us from being able to spend the full $350,000 allocation that we had. That has been resolved, and we are aimed to finish up the last little bit of the allocation by the end of June. As a result, that would face a temporary lapse in the program. We are working really hard to scrounge up any one-time funding that we have within our own budget to be able to cover that. Hopefully with the Department of Labor grant, if we receive that in late fall, it'll backdate through July 1 And so that could cover some of the costs, but that is what we're facing currently, unless additional funding is secured. In partnership with the Pierce County Jail and Vallejo, I've already talked about the Department of Labor grant, but the expansion of that program would include consistent visits to the jail to meet with clients before they release. We anticipate trying to do this pared down version of the program through the second half, so July to December. We anticipate costing about $125,000 to be able to run that. That includes moving the number of hours of subsidized employment down, potentially reducing the number of participants that can work in the subsidized employment pathway, trying to use our other community resources to still get them employment training, but that's some of the ways that we're planning on reducing those costs to this bare bones method, which is unfortunate because we are seeing such amazing results. The goal really is to create a sustainable framework that even as outside funding might fluctuate, there's consistency, again, for our community partners, for our county partners and justice partners, and then the participants themselves.
Okay. All right. Some more questions coming up here. Committee Member Denson.
And I apologize if you said this, but how much is the DOL grant for that you've applied for?
Vallejo is actually the applicant. We have supported them in it, but it is $3.2 million. And it would include funding a full FTE.
And is that multi-year, a multi-year grant?
Yes,
Okay,
it's
so
for,
nodding
yes,
over there. Okay.
through 28.
I don't know if you're even able to do this. Certainly Vallejo would be, but are you looking at like private sources for funding too, foundations that maybe can move a little faster? You are. Okay, good. This is such a valuable program. I don't want to see a lapse in this program.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this later, but $250,000 a year for this program seems like a steal. I mean, for all that you are doing, that seems cheap.
It is very pared down version of it, but I want a framework, and we want a framework that is sustainable.
Yeah,
I understand that it might
appreciate
not
that.
be possible to fund a $3.2 million biennial program, but if we can create a framework that's a little less costly, but continues the program even as other funding sources might fluctuate.
Well, thank you for letting us know where you are and what you're facing too, so we can be keeping our eyes and ears out as well, just in case there's something out there that you haven't thought of, because you're doing great work. This is saving lives, lots of lives, because we know the ripple effects, so we want to support you.
And thank you for having us.
Thank you for the questions. Committee Member Morrell.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is one of the highlights that this council can point to for a successful program. I know in conversations with Mr. Hardiman, trying to figure out why we continually to do the same thing. Just, 5 a.m., here you go, here's the door, get out of here, don't want to see you again. But the recidivant rate was obvious. We weren't, and sometimes we have to look within, and you being a mom, sometimes you go, come on, kid, just don't you get it?
Stop touching the hot stove.
Yeah, this is how life works, but it takes extra effort to do this. And there again, I think we spent about a year running through different transition from jail to community programs, all the way from, I think, Boston, trying to find a model that would work, because we knew that this was a hole that we had within our system. And for your team to come together with outside partners to be able to put a pilot together. And I'm thankful for this council for, taking that roll of the dice and saying, okay, I think this money will be well spent, and then hopefully be able to collect the data that we need to keep this going, and plus take it out. to, maybe some philanthropic organizations that would be willing to invest in this. I know committee member Yambe is willing to finance it 100% out of his budget. It's always the new one on the council that we're willing to tap into his budget, but, I think he would be willing to do that. But, setting that aside, I think there again is a priority of, I know, me as a council member, this is one of the things that I want to see continued and possibly expanded based on the success that we have. And as committee member Hitchens said, I mean, there is a cost. If we don't do anything, there is a cost. And we need to understand what that cost is, of course, moving forward to justify the program. But in my mind, just this pilot has shown us a pathway forward. And I appreciate your involvement, your help, your passion for redirecting lives that have been, justice involved. And so, I would be willing to work and help to make sure that somehow we get funding in the budget for at least the next biennium for this program. So thank you. I just want to know why you can't microwave broccoli in your office.
You really want that on the record?
I'm going to go home and try it and see what happens.
That's the lesson learned. Watch the post.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Interesting. Committee member Hitchin.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
Question. So one of the things that we keep coming back to in our Health and Human Services Committee as we're working with people with behavioral health and substance use disorder concerns is case management, is really helping them navigate some of those things in life that have really led them astray, or they just truly have a disability where they have a mental health challenge and they just need someone to kind of help manage them. We've been talking actively around case management as part of the behavioral health core. Is that part of the service that essentially makes this program work so well? Is that case management? I'm able to respond. They're not having to say their story again.
Yes, yeah, that's what makes it work is the case management. I mentioned the employment component, getting somebody employed. When I need to work on some soft skills is going to take, Taylor bringing you back to the classroom and talking to you about, you can't threaten to punch your boss in the mouth if, he's getting on you for showing up late. And we've had those conversations with individuals in our program. So, yeah, that case management is vital, and that's what makes this program work.
And the case management is done through Valeo?
It's done through Valeo, or it's done through whatever other partner that person is going to be working with. So if it's Pierce County Alliance, then you're going to also be working with the navigators through that program. Or if it's comprehensive, you'll also be working with the case managers through comprehensive. So if you were to get into a FHARPS bed, you're going to be working with the comprehensive life resources team.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind as we continue to think about how we better support people who are suffering from or have mental health concerns that they need case management. And it's one of the reasons they're cycling through our systems, including our jails, but not always our jails. And that's where they need a case manager. Okay. Thank you. Sounds like we have a possible successful program that's doing it. So maybe I don't have to reinvent a wheel.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee member Yambi, who's going to be funding this through his budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, like Dominic said, that we got to see the day that we did a tour, we got to see this successful, instance where one of the program participants got got her that she got a job and the opportunities that provides. So it was an honor to see that and appreciate all the work that Dominique and Judge Sussman and the entire program are doing for this. I think that I wanted also the record to show that I agree with 90% of what Councilmember Morrell said, so I just wanted that to be on the record. First, we'll go through his pockets first, and then his truck, and then we'll see how much money I have to pony up. So, but I think it's a worthy cause, and I think it's demonstrated its value, and really is something that we should be replicating and thinking about, how we can model other programs like that. So, great work, and thanks for the presentation. It's been very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I just want to say 2 words, 8 letters. Thank you for this great presentation of what's been going on in the last 2 years with the Pathways to Progress. If anybody ever seen that movie, The Never-Ending Story, and the big nothing, right? Before we had the big nothing, and now we have something. And I appreciate that something, helping folks get new beginnings, because I'm sure individually working in this space, we've met folks who have been successful, that one person. And we probably know people who haven't been successful and maybe know the ultimate end of tragedy or something like that. But every now and then we get those folks who have got that extra help moving forward. And this as a collective, doing it together with our Vallejo and many other folks and navigating them through this world is great. So we have something versus nothing. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee or anything? Okay. We appreciate that. Awesome. Ms. Kelly, do we have anything else today? There it is.
Thank you, Chair. No other business for today. There is no Public Safety Committee meeting scheduled for May 26th, as the Council office will be closed in observance of Memorial Day. For your next meeting agenda, tentatively we have the quarterly drug report that is received from the Health Department in conjunction with data from the Medical Examiner's Office.
All right. Thank you. Well, if there's no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.